Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again. It's Monday night, and we're here once again with the conversation that builds. A warm welcome to those that are listening. It's a privilege that you are listening, and we're gonna have a great time tonight. We have a special guest in the studio who's gonna give us some great insight when it comes to financial issues, how to handle money and so forth. So please invite someone. This is the right time to invite someone. If you haven't shared that link, send a link to someone so they can jump in and listen to this conversation. Before we get into what we're going to talk about tonight, I just want to do a quick recap on what we spoke about last week. So we had the Nderos over, and we spoke about false beliefs that we had before salvation. You know, if you missed out or if you want to listen to it again, you can just go on our page, on our YouTube page. That's the Potter's House, Windhoek. And then you just scroll down and see the first episode of Conversations That Builds. All right. Before I give the platform to our guest tonight, we're just going to have a music break. We're going to listen to the song of Naka Sala Sala by Mark. Then after that, we're going to have a great time. All right.
Omwene undalimbilirwa kova matino bakadona kavanjo shuolelwa shapuka ko hembu dangele kunona veli ninga Sodom na Gomora ulunde wo mashengeta veli hombola. Excuse me, you can't judge me, but no pangula mweno kweva tambula. I'm a woman in a man's body. Ocean do it emboli ndani ngapo mofi. God is not an author of confusion. Kwa mushe mwapuka na shikale shaela. Hey, kalunga kelandula fano. Shikoneka shishivato, shitula mefano. Okwa shita adamu, tashicheva. Onlumenu nonkainu to be together. Naka sala sala. Salavi, 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 senaka sala sala, salavi, 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 salavi. Excuse me, please, let me call a spade a spade. If I do hurt you, know the truth will set you free. Allow the word of God just to speak to your heart, please. Please, pardon me. Homosexuality is a spiritual entity attacking men's sanity. They call it sexual diversity. No, fan, let me tell you that it's called sodomy. You are not a minority group in the scene, man. We all need salvation. Every time you just feel so attacked, this is not hate speech, it's the pure word of God. Remember Sodom and Gomorrah, mweno kweshimbo nyona fire brimstone. Osho kalunga kale holu nyonyo kwa yanjo mona waye, opotumo no mwenyo. Public rebuke is better than secret love. Come to Jesus, he'll really fix you up. Come as you are is the matter of the heart. There is no condemnation for those who in Christ. Behold, the old passed away and the new has come. He makes all things new, he's the greater aim. He changed the story in a powerful testimony. You overcome by the blood and your testimony. Naka sala sala, salavi, 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 senaka sala sala, salavi, 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 naka sala salavi, salavi, avi salavi konde smolo. Hey, nakasala salo kulipe nakasala salo kuliko eveline vachotale shimwenyo elino mafelende nakasala salo kulipe hey, nakasala sala vachoko atolwa vakakongo nduda vaningupani nakasala salo kulipe hey, nakasala salo kulimembe temoshipangelo mokatutura taveleko aijisa nakasala salo kulipe hey, nakasala salo kwetu fiapo ukwa manenjeda ukwa yake pangulo nakasala salo kulipe hey, nakasala salo kwa amoheli edinala inalihangi kamo membolo mwenyo. So please let this not be your end. Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. For the wages of sin is death, but God gives eternal life.
All right, welcome back again to the conversation that builds. With Lincoln Mufaya, your host tonight. Uh, I'm so excited because this topic that we're going to talk about tonight is something that can help uh, you with your finances. And I believe that if you have, get a book, get a notepad, take a few notes. I kid you not, this is going to help you in your life when it comes to finances. Um, just a quick one. We are handing out a prize giving tonight, and if you want to hear yourself on the radio, as I said the last time, just give us a call. Have a conversation with us. Tonight we are giving away a financial book. So at the end of the show, we're gonna ask a few questions, or one or two. It depends on what our guest will decide. And then after that, whoever gets it right, or if you get the answer correct, you win yourself a financial book. And collection is on Wednesday. Please come to church and get it at Church Potter's House, Christian Fellowship Church in Windhoek. If you are not in Windhoek, then we're going to find a way to get the book to you. Please remember, if you want to join us in the studios, please call or text the number +264 8129 33066. That's +264 8129 33066. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a talk on think and grow wealth and money. So since it's a big or a broad topic, we're going to narrow it down to how do you handle your money? So that's the biggest question we're going to answer tonight. How do you handle money? So without wasting time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give the floor over to the guest tonight in our studio to introduce themselves so you know where you're getting your advice from or who you are listening to tonight. All right, without wasting time. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also thank you for having me.
All right.
I'm very much pleased and excited to be on the show tonight. So
Okay.
at least I can, just share a little bit, that I myself, have learned over the few years that
Yeah.
I've been alive. So maybe I can start with the introduction. So my name is Samuel Ndahangwapo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from Oshakati. That's where I was born and bred. I came to Windhoek just about maybe 20 years ago in 2002. And in the same year, that's also, my dear cousin who was very concerned about, my life, that he reached out to me and then he witnessed to me. And then that's when I also became a Christian in the very same year. So I'm indeed grateful, number one, just for his effort and for his persistence, that he has been really, chasing out, on me. And then,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I am the man that I am today, definitely because of, the grace, that God have really showed me, by saving me and then, bringing me up here. So in terms of trade, I'm a chartered accountant.
Oh, okay.
That's my profession. So I've been a chartered accountant now for about just over 11 years.
Just over 11
Yeah,
years.
just over 11 years. So, yeah. And then I'm a husband. I'm married to Claudia. I'm a father. I have about 4 kids actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm a big family man. So I grew up in a big family. So I'm indeed excited about our topic.
Yeah.
Because that is something that is really, I think, crucial. Because money and how we handle it is really, part of our lives,
Yeah.
and that's normally what determines, whether how basically, we live life, not necessarily comfortably,
Yeah.
but reasonably, so
That's
to
so
speak.
true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Without wasting time, Mr. Ninja, just a quick one. I know you're a chartered accountant and you've been doing it for over 11 years, as you said. Basically, you deal with handling of money every single day at your workplace. If I would ask or I would direct this conversation, what would you, if let me just say, if there was a crowd in front of us right now, and the topic that they gave you was money and how to handle it, what would be the things that you, or the pointers or the principles that you would share to a crowd so they can help those people in how they handle their money?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, if you look at money and then how we handle it, a lot really has been said, a lot has been written. There's a lot of good material, out there, that people that could reach out to. And then some of this material are even easily accessible. I mean, you check on YouTube, there are now books, audio books, that we can read.
Yeah.
And then there are like, motivational speakers, that come around and then talk to people in terms of how, number one, to make money.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing for me that I feel that is very much neglected is the basics. You see, because what we need to come down, back to is to the basics.
Yeah.
Because if we neglect the basics, that's why, I mean, people do get money, but you find that, it just disappears, like that, because the handing thereof, is what we have proven not to necessarily be good at. And then the challenge is that we're looking for some serious theory, It's like somebody who's trying to dig deep in the Bible for some serious revelation, when the basic stuff that is on the outset, we're failing to do.
Yeah.
And then that's basically, how I feel when it comes, to the handling of the money. Because the first thing, that we look at in terms of the very basic principle is that, one, you earn the money. Two, you then spend it.
Yeah.
And the principle is that, as a starter, do not spend more than what you earn.
Yeah.
That's just a starter. But I mean, you must understand, the world that we live in, in the environment, that we live in. It has made it so possible, for us to get into a situation where we live above our means. So it's so easy. I mean, in the days of our father, everything they did was on a cash base.
Yeah.
And then if they needed to buy a car, they wait for 5-6 years, before they save, and then only then buy their car. But now, I mean, if you look at in our world, you can buy anything at any point in time, just by presenting your payslip and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then debt is so easily accessible. So because of that, it has gotten us to a place where we are in most of the time in financial trouble, because we basically are spending more than what we earn. So because that's what it is, that's the basic. So you can read as many books as you want.
Yeah.
Get access to the gurus, in terms of what they're sharing
on YouTube
and everywhere. They're now like almost everywhere. Buy this course and then I'll teach you how to handle money. But we might just come back to the very basic, is that we should not spend more than we earn.
That is so
As a
true.
starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I understand most people are trying to, they get into, as you said, on YouTube, trying to get motivational speaker and to figure out how they can maintain their money, or how can they spend their money wisely so they can build up or save or some sort. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is what we are neglecting, and those are the basics, as you said. For instance, when I was in my parents' house, I had no idea what saving is all about. I would put the butter as much as I want on the bread. I had no idea until my dad said, hey, listen, you got a job now, you need to leave. I remember my first month, it was hectic because now I had to learn how to save up. I had to learn that you need to spend less. You don't just jump into a shop and just grab everything that you need. You need to think of taxi and so forth. So what you're saying, it's really true. If we maintain the basics, as you said, I think it'll be better on how we spend our money.
You see, that is very true. Because if you look at it, in terms of the very basics, people have even come up now with what we have termed as the budget.
Yeah.
To kind of say, have a monthly budget, where you kind of like, flag your income, and then you compare to your expenses, and then you're supposed to adjust your budget accordingly, because when you look at the bottom line in terms of your income less your expenses.
Yeah.
So what are you, left with? So if you have more expenses than income, then you're overdrawn. So then that means that either you have to make more money, to make up, for that difference,
Yeah.
or you have to reduce the expense. That's the only, two options that you have. And then the challenge most of the time is that, you see, we know the options that we have is two.
Yeah.
Either you increase the income
Or
or reduce the expense.
yeah.
You don't really have any other. So now the only other one that's available, which is the third one, is to get debt. You
It's
understand?
not a good idea.
You see, which is not a good idea depending on what is it that
Yeah.
you're trying to set yourself up for. So are you buying a house? Are you buying whatever? Then then you determine basically how you need to look at it. And people also have now come up with different type of theory. No, there's good debt, there's bad debt, and all the other stuff like the years.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the houses that we have will not necessarily be able to buy cash. Otherwise we'd have to wait a long time. It would have been a good thing.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, that's probably what I should have done. Waited maybe like, just 5 years. Because if you save up 5 years, 6 years,
Yeah.
I promise you will save enough money to buy your house cash. You see, because if you can afford, a bond, let's say of 10,000 now, so that means in 5 years, if you exclude interest, so you would have saved up about 600,000 just in 5 years. And then if you make it about, 8 years, so you're already basically in the region of about 1 million.
Yeah.
And then remember that you will not be able to do that if you take out a bond, because then you will have to basically pay it over a period of about 20 years, and I think they're now pushing it to 30. So then you basically be paying over that amount. But that's a different discussion in that particular respect. We want to deal with the basics at this particular point in time. So why do we spend the way that we do? Because that's the one thing that we need to look at, because the Bible says godliness and contentment is great gain. Sometimes it's a lack of contentment in our daily lives, that push us to get to the place where we basically are buying things that we can't really afford. Because the issue is not necessarily the income, the issue is the expenditure. Because for most of us, the income is fixed unless we supplement it and we bring in, additional, streams, to supplement what we're already getting in terms of a fixed salary or whatever that might be. So, but now, then the other thing is that our expenditure is the one basically we're failing to control. You understand? And then that's the most important thing that we must always be on the lookout. So you start with your budget, and then you need to manage your budget.
Okay.
So if you don't manage your budget, you're gonna get in trouble. So that's why if somebody comes to me and then they said, "No, Ninja, I need money." So the first thing that I've started asking of late is to say, "Where is your budget?"
Yeah.
I'll ask your budget because I want to understand why is it that you earn an income, but yet you're not able to live within your means.
Yeah.
And then we then have to start looking at that. I attended a course one time.
Yeah.
And then they were telling me about the title of the course was finding money that you didn't think you have. So you see, because it was quite interesting, because the course is about finding the money that we didn't think we have.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to tell me now, like some strategy in terms of how to get the money and all the other stuff. And lo and behold, they basically started talking about the budget. And then started, asking, questions as to if you take your budget, what is the unnecessary stuff that you have in there that you shouldn't be, paying for? And because that's what it is. Most of the time, we're not honest with ourselves. And then that's the second point. We're not honest with ourselves in terms of what we really need and what we really don't. You understand?
Yeah.
We have convinced ourselves that we need certain things when we actually don't. So, it's quite interesting. And then most of the stuff that we think we need, we can't really, we can actually live without. Yeah.
That is so true. There's a quote here that literally speaks about what you're saying there. Most people, or some of the people, they get stuff they actually don't need. Someone once said, you buy things that you don't want to impress people that don't even care about you or so. So what you're saying is actually true. There's a quote from Zig Ziglar, and he says this, that rich people have small TVs and big libraries, and poor people have small libraries and big TV. Do you think that if we get all these so-called financial motivational speakers, get the books, read them, from back to back, do you think that will help someone to a certain extent?
Yeah, so I think we have largely bought into the deception of thinking that, you know what, the more we lead rightly,
Yeah.
you know, the more, you know, smart we become and all the rest are there, which is like, it's true to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, but what we must understand is that we must actually put in practice
Yeah.
that which we already know.
Yeah.
You see, and then that's the thing right there. So we already know, you know, that we are spending more money than what we need.
Yes.
So you don't really need, again, somebody telling you the same thing and say,
That you know.
Lincoln, you are spending more than
Yeah.
what you need. You're spending more than what you need. No, okay, I think I need to attend this course on whatever. I need to do whatever. You see, just do that which you already know.
Yeah.
Understand? I promise you, by the time you go for the course, it will just build, if you're already working on what you already know. Because that's where the challenge is right there. So we already know these things. Most of the stuff we already know. Understand? You know, that the iPhone that you have, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have buy it in the first place. You understand?
Yeah.
But instead of getting rid of it, you're trying to look for other means. How can I justify? So you don't have to justify anything. You understand?
Yeah.
Sell the iPhone and then just live normal life. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's why I said of late, I've started asking if somebody, you know, approach me for financial help, you know, like I've approached many people in my life before. It's like, it's to basically say, where's your budget? And then I'll ask the question, is that now, then why are you paying Wi-Fi for 1,000? No, it's fast and all these things. Why? Yes, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
You see, that's why you are in the red. Downgrade and get the slow one. Why do you need anyway things running at a high speed that you don't need? You understand?
Yeah.
You can wait. Where are you going? You understand? You see, and then that's where basically the challenge is right there, because we have convinced ourselves. You understand? That's why we are in the situation you know, that we are. So when I just qualified, you know, as a chartered accountant, so my salary increased, you know, substantially. You know, because I was just a trainee the year before, and then I think the 1st of Feb, you know, then I became a manager. So the one thing I've realized is that I needed to buy a house, you know, but I didn't have the deposit that was required for me to pay it. So I basically, you know, didn't buy a car, you know, even though I could afford it.
Yeah.
You understand? I could afford it. I could make the payment, but I didn't buy a car for the whole year in about 2 months.
Sure.
Now, as a manager, you know, managing audit clients,
Yeah.
people thought, you know, this guy is crazy. Because why is this guy taking a taxi? And I was married also that time. So me and my wife, we're taking a taxi. We have no issue, you understand? Because we're not looking at anybody else. So we're looking at what we have and what we can afford. Because, I mean, most of the time we get in trouble because you're trying to chase the Jones.
Yeah.
You understand? You know, because the Jones tells you, don't live on this side of the Western Bypass. You must live on the other side of the Western Bypass, on the east side of the Western Bypass. Now, it's not a problem. The issue is not whether you live on the west or whether on the east. It's about what can you afford. So if you start with your affordability, you have less trouble, you know, when it comes to that. So I only bought a car basically after a year and a half, after I've, you know, managed to raise my deposit and then bought the house basically, you know, that I needed to buy. And then those are the type of things that we really need to look at and have honest, you know, conversation with ourselves, not with anybody else, just with yourself, and then do what you already know.
That's so true.
Because if you don't do what you know, it's going to be a problem.
So basically, it's not about getting more knowledge or reading more books and so forth. It's applying what you already know into this financial issue that Namibia is going through, I might say. I'm just thinking now that if you think about it, I remember my dad spoke about this a while back, and I didn't understand it because, you know, I was living under someone's house. They get paid on the same day, and you ask them money, Daddy, can I have this amount? And they'll tell you, I don't have money. You know, I didn't understand that. What do you mean you don't have money? You just got paid like yesterday, but yet you say you don't have money. And come to think of it now, I realized that yes, there is money that came in, but that money is not for what I wanted. You know, it was for something else because the money was already allocated for other things. You know, what do you take on that?
Yeah, I mean so it's always, I mean, it's that thing that we behave differently at month end than we behave in the normal, you know, day of the month.
Yeah.
Ideally, it's supposed to be the same, you know. So we're not supposed to behave differently, you know, in that particular respect, you know, because I mean that's the discipline that is required, you know, in respect of, you know, how you treat month end as opposed to any other day.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it's month end, it doesn't mean that there's now abundant money,
Yeah.
that's available. You see, the money is still committed, because you have, these recurring, expenses, that we still have to service. And then that's where basically the challenge is. So you find then, because I was like, maybe to put it in practice, or at least give you a practical example, is that I, up to now, with the salary that I get, I still take my bakkie to work.
Yeah.
My wife prepares the bakkie, and then I take it to work. Understand?
Yeah.
Now, it's not a sign to say that everybody must take a bakkie to work. No. Just to kind of demonstrate that, the fact that you have money doesn't mean that now you must start, acting differently,
Yeah.
in that particular respect. Because that's where basically the challenge is. We have colleagues, where when the month ends, then they stop bringing the food. And then for the whole week, they're eating at restaurants and all the rest of it. And nothing wrong with that. You understand?
Okay. Yeah.
But just before month end, they're looking out for money for taxi. So what does that mean? That means that you can't actually afford to eat at the restaurant. You see, the day that you continue to eat at the restaurant and you don't ask anybody money, by the end of the month, you see, when that day comes, then you can do it. So until then, you must basically keep the routine of taking food to work. Understand? Because that's what it is. Once again, living above your means, the very basics.
Yeah.
We are back, at the basics, in this particular respect.
That is so true. To those that are listening, hey, if you have any questions to Mr. Ndahangwapo, just send us an SMS to +26481 2933 Just throw in a text, and then I'll read it out, and then he's gonna answer your question. Or call in. Call in. I want to speak to you. Don't call in. I don't know how I can emphasize on that. Take time. Just give us a call so we can have a great time. We're speaking, if you just joined us, thank you so much. We're speaking about think and grow wealth and money. How do you handle money? So that's the big question that we're about to answer. And we have in the studio we are here in the studio with Mr. Ndahangwapo, a chartered accountant for over 11 years. So we're going to get a great stuff tonight, great advice. I hope you have a notepad and a pen so you can take notes to this. So is there anything else that you want to share with us? Something that is, I wouldn't say on your heart, but something that is very important,
Yeah. Okay, I think what I've started to learn of late,
Yeah.
Is to really get to the place where we understand
Yeah.
why we do what we do. Because it's the why we do what we do that normally get us, to the place where we are spending more, you understand, than what we earn. Because that's what it is. Remember, very basic principle, spend less than what you earn unless you can up your income. So if you can't up your income, the only basically option you have is to trim your expenditure, in that respect. However, you see, if you look at our expenditure and our patterns, you understand? So we must understand that, you see, we must start thinking
Yeah.
of things that we buy for the purpose for which it was created. So what do I mean? You see, if you're planning to buy a car, understand? So just ensure you're buying a car primarily as a means of transport.
Yeah.
Understand? Not to add value to yourself. Understand?
true.
Because the moment you want to add value to yourself, you're gonna think of you sometimes what I've seen is that you're gonna be pushed to a place where you're gonna buy a car that you can't really afford, but because you are buying it not as a means of transport, you are buying it as a means to add value to yourself so that people can perceive you and look at you in whatever way that you want them to look at you, then that's how we get in trouble. So if you're buying a phone, are you really buying it so that you can do whatever you need to do? Or you're buying a phone so that you can flash it around, it's an iPhone, and people can start thinking of you as, somebody basically that is worth something because of what you have. And then that's why we get in trouble. So we need basically to look at that. Because when the Bible says godliness and contentment is great gain, that is very true. Understand? Because when we lack contentment, you understand, we don't have basically, good identity of ourselves. We're going to try to use things, to kind of make up for what we are not. And then if we're trying to use things to make up for what we are not, then guess what? We're going to spend, you understand, to fulfill the dream of making up for what we are not. And hence, basically, that's how we get in trouble.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically what it is right there. So when you buy food just simply to fill your stomach?
Yes.
Or you're buying food so that, when the visitor comes, they have a good view of you to say, man, this guy, he eats, eats good food, in that particular respect. Now, I'm not saying this so that you can say, okay, well, Ninja, it's simply because, you drive, a Nissan, hard body and all the other stuff. That's what you're saying, all these things. No, me driving a Nissan hard body has nothing to do with what I'm saying. You understand? So it's all basically to say that we must watch what triggers our expenditures.
Yeah.
Because what triggers our expenditures, we get us to a place, where we spend more than what we need to. Because remember, we have not spoken about anything deep here.
Yeah.
We are just
the
basics. And that's what we should never neglect, is the basics.
That is so true. Tata Ninja, just a quick one. You said something very important that some people get involved into debts, or they buy this expensive stuff just to add value to themselves. Do you think with them doing that, get the Nike, get the latest clothes, or get the latest car, just for you to feel like, hey, I'm someone? Do you think in the long run that will help someone?
No, not necessarily, especially if you see, because remember, just to make sure that we put it in perspective, is to get into that place where doing those things, will get you in the red.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you can afford the things, buy it. By all means.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not applicable to you. You understand? If you can afford it, buy it. You understand?
Yeah.
So if you can't afford it, then don't buy it.
Yeah.
You understand? And then that's the message that we're trying to bring across.
Yeah.
You understand? If you want to buy a house, you understand? Can you afford it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you afford the upkeep?
Yeah.
Can you afford the whatever? If you do a budget, how much is left? You understand? Because that's what it is right there. Some of the stuff we get ourselves into, and when we want to, to pray ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
When God is just saying, dude, cut that expense.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. You're busy praying, Lord, I just bind this, you bind that. There's nothing to bind. You understand? Simply cut the expense.
Yeah.
Sell the car, you understand?
Yeah.
Get a cheaper one, you understand? And then you will still be able to come to church. You'll still be able to go wherever you need to go.
Uh-huh.
But if you can afford it, you can afford a fancy Ferrari, buy it, my friend, and enjoy yourself, And then, feel good in your car if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, don't do it. And that's the message, basically, that, what I've learned, you understand? You see, because the thing for me, God has really helped me over time. Because some of these things, remember, some of these things I'm speaking, I've been there.
Yeah.
You understand? Where you're under pressure and you're trying to buy things. I remember when just before I entered UNAM, it's like there was an option of me buying shoes.
Mm-hmm.
There was one good shoes. That time, I don't know whether that brand still exists. It's called John Drake. And John Drake. And then there was another shoe called Crockett and Jones.
Yeah.
Now, the Crockett and Jones was perceived to be of much more value. And then when you were wearing a Crockett and Jones, in our days, I felt like a god, So now, I chose a Crockett and Jones, not because it was better. Yeah. No, it's because of the, accolades that I'm going to receive from my peers and how people are going to perceive me. And then that's basically what I'm talking about, you understand? That, I got stuff, not necessarily because I needed them, because the other one was equally a leather shoe. That means that it could have served me well as well. But because it's not the Crockett and Jones, and the Crockett and Jones is the brand that we are chasing after, that's what it is right there. So that's why if you see, I have kind of like totally dropped brands. So I don't chase brands. Mm-hmm. It's not that I won't buy a Crockett and Jones. Yeah. If it happened to look better than the other one, I'll buy it. You understand? But you know what? I'm not going to go into a shop looking for a Crockett and Jones. I'm just going to go into a shop. I'm looking for shoes. And whichever that looks nice on the day, that's what I'm going to take. And then that's basically the difference, at least for me.
That's so true. We have a question here from one of our listeners, and it goes as follows. He says, how do we distinguish between faith and financial common sense? How do we distinguish between faith and financial common sense? You
see, I think when it comes to the, to the issue, of faith, Paul, I think, made it very clear somewhere. He said, he's living in a specific manner because he didn't want it to be a burden to somebody.
Yes.
I think that is clear because the man understood. It's not about that he lacked faith that people were not able to support him. You understand? He said, look, I didn't want it to be a burden. And because I didn't want it to be a burden to these people, you see, I'm going to live basically like this. And then that's what it is, in the end. It's not that we are not trusting God for greater things. You understand? It's the same God that says, count the cost.
Yeah.
If you want to go basically and attack somebody, whatever, it says count what you have. Are you able basically to do whatever? And you don't want to be somebody that is going to start a project when you have not counted whether you have enough money to finish it. You understand? So Jesus Christ said that, right? We must basically count the cost, in that particular respect. So it's not about to say that, for you to get into debt, it's a sign that, you are believing God for more income. Because God says that, I want you to be lender and not borrower.
Yeah.
Now, by getting into the debt, how can you then lend? It's not possible.
Yeah.
So throughout the Bible, there are principles, that tells us that, God wants us to be disciplined, in terms of what we have. And that's why he says, godly contentment is great gain. And then he says, in every purpose, he basically learns, to be content, in that particular respect. So like I said, there's a lot in the Bible that tells us that, we need to be diligent in terms of how we spend, our money.
Yeah, so true. Let me quickly read the next question. It says, how can someone get out of debt? If you're into so many things, you owe so many people. What are those steps, or what can you do so you can get out of debts?
Okay, now I'm going to share something deep. This is now something deep.
Yeah, you need to listen, good people.
Okay, so this is something deep because I don't know. We have started abusing the word deep these days. You understand? So. Remember, you have income, you have expenses. I'm now getting deep now. Yeah. So you have income, you have expenses. If you are in debt, it means that your expenses exceed your income. If you cannot increase the income by getting other revenue streams, then the only option you need to look at is the expense. So you're going to have to go and interrogate your expenses and then basically cut your expenses. Because when you cut your expenses, you will have enough. You can make money available to pay off some of these debts. So if you are renting, let's make it practical. That's why I'm going to be deep. If you are renting, in Klein Coupe, then it means that come to Katutura. You understand? So even if you have to go set up a bashu, do that. You understand? And make that difference in terms of the rent that you're paying available to pay your debts. Because you can't pay off debts unless you have funds available. And you can't have funds available if you earn $10 and then you are already spending $9. That means you only have $1 available for food. Then that means you're going to have to do something with the other one. So if you have to sell your iPhone, sell it. That's why I hardly give money. If somebody comes to me for funds, they say, no, Ninja, I need money. And you have an iPhone. Most likely I'll not give you. You see, because at the end of the day, sell the iPhone. You understand? Because that is deep. But we don't want to do that because we don't think that is an option. Because we are saying, no, this I need. No, when did you start needing this? No, I can't downgrade my Wi-Fi. Then go to Jaiva. Jaiva is $200 a month. You understand? I'm being deep now. You understand? Because that's what we need to do. But you know what? We want other stuff. Which book can I read so I can continue my current status, keep the status quo, and then somehow still, no, you can't.
Come on.
Unless you can get more money. Yes, I just want to leave it there for now.
You heard it. That was the deepest talk you could ever have. Listen, cut the costs. I had a friend at one of the law firms that I worked. He was in a lot of debts with banks. And, he came into my office and said, listen, this year, I'm going to make sure that I pay off this debt. And he started cutting off certain things. He started taking these buses from Katutura. Instead of getting into a cab, he would take these buses. I think it was $6, $5, somewhere there. And he also started bringing bakkies at home. Food. Instead of buying on lunch, he would start eating the food that the wife cooked for him. And it kept going. He started cutting a few things. And at the end of the year, he came to me and said, listen, in January next year, my debt will be done. Why? Because I was constantly doing what I was trying to do so I can save a bit of money and pay it off. You know, I think that's one thing we need to do. As you said, look at your expenses, look at your income. If there's no alternative funds that are coming in, cut down costs. You know, I think that's basically the deep theory that you were saying. uh, Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the studio. Call us if you can. Plus 26429 33066. That's plus 264 8129 33066. We're having a great time with Tata Ninja in the studio, and we're talking about money, and how to handle your money. Let's see if we have a few questions here. Let's quickly see. Tata Ninja, I have a quote here by Dave Ramsey. It says, financial peace is not the acquisition of stuff. It's learning to live on less than you make, so you can give money back and have money to invest. You can't win until you do this. He finished off by saying that. You know,
that's actually a serious statement. And then I'm going to respond, with my own personal example.
Yeah.
Because some of the things, some of the things I'm talking about is really some of the things that I have to do myself. You understand? So people wonder, for example, to say, okay, well, Samuel, why, are you driving, the car you're driving? Because people of your level, now I don't understand now where did they got the levels from. People of your level and then of your status apparently, should be driving fancier cars. You see, and my response was very simple. I said, for what I need to do, you see, that's the car I can afford now.
Yeah.
Understand? Because for me to continue supporting my mother, my siblings, my extended family, doing certain things, basically putting certain thing in place, I can't afford a huge, monthly payment of a car. Understand? Because then in the process, I will not be able to afford what I need to afford. So I must be at the place where, my mother should be able to call me and she says she's sick and she needs medical attention. Then I must be able to put her in a private hospital. Understand? But you see, I can only do that, if I keep my cost at minimum, in that particular respect. And then that's what it is, because we want to basically go and then, trying to live lavish lifestyle, and then we are surprised when we don't have funds available.
That's so true.
You see, because what is critical is the cash. We must have keep the cash flow moving, and then we must have excess cash available.
All right, we have a quick question here from one of our listeners in Otapi, and he or she says this: does sorting out bills on time a good habit in regards to managing finances? You sort out all the bills and remain empty. What can you say about that?
If you can do that every month, that's actually the best thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Because you won't be tempted to spend money that is not there. It's very basic. It's like, you and I, when you're talking about, sexual immorality and all the other stuff like that, is that, you cannot be tempted when you're alone. You see? And then that's where basically the thing. So you are alone by yourself. What temptation are you talking about? You see? So when the money is gone, that means you don't have it in your account.
Yeah.
So you won't be tempted to spend the money.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that we have another type of temptation now, which is the debt.
Yeah.
You see, because now these days, even at the ATM, you're already getting a notification, that says that, we can give you a loan of up to 50,000.
Wow.
And you don't even have to fill up anything. You can withdraw it right there and then.
Sure.
You understand? That's a serious temptation, basically, that we need to deal with. And hence, if you can discipline yourself to spend and then basically deal with your debts on the one day that your salary comes in, then you will have less trouble, not having enough money to pay.
It's not like we don't know the basics. Everyone knows what we're talking about here. It's not something deep, or so to say. But why is it that we don't apply it? Is it pride? Why is it?
No, we bought into the deception. And then that's where basically the challenge is like. So I like to liken it to the apps on one's phone. Look, the issue is that we have too many apps. And because we have too many apps, they are causing us to spend so much time on our phones. As opposed to deleting the apps, we are looking for another app to help us manage the number of apps, too many apps that we have. And then it shouldn't be like that. We should come to a place where we said, you know what, today is basically the day.
Yeah.
And you cut. Once you take that step, it's like most of the time there's no turning back. You see? And then basically realizing that, you know what, let's not buy into the deception of I need it. As opposed to no, it's just something that I want. Yeah, because we have turned our wants into needs. And that's why where we are here.
That's so true. We have, this is a personal one. It says, what can you share with us when it comes to your financial goals?
I'll probably just share one.
Yeah.
And then I'll normally take it back as well,
Yeah.
To me driving a hard body.
Yeah.
So for me to really, get where I am, it's the grace of God. And then I've struggled a lot. Understand? So you come into Windhoek, you basically have nowhere, to stay. You must first, check around, which family wants to accommodate you and all the other stuff. Either you go to school, just the registration money alone, you understand, is already a challenge. And then, you start working. I mean, as opposed to thinking about, buying something, you are thinking about paying rent and all the other stuff. So one of my financial goals is really to get at the place where my kids, and it's not generational. You understand? My kids should not experience, what I've experienced.
Yeah.
You understand? Not that they shouldn't struggle. No, they should. You understand? But some of the basic stuff that should be available. You understand?
Yeah.
I must make it possible now while I'm still alive. You understand? So that at the end of the day, I must now end up living a little bit poorer. For them basically to, make it, after 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Because when my daughter goes to university, for example, or go and study, or, get married or whatever the case might be, she must be able to, to have money for deposits. She must be able to, there must be a flat available somewhere, that the person can live in, after they start working and not basically, struggle to make end meets, while basically we are spending the money away. So it's trying basically to cut, my livelihood now, so that basically it can make a difference, in the lives of my kids.
That is so true. That's a good one. Good people, all my listeners, please send us a text. All the questions that you have at +264 8129 33066. Pardon me. We have one question here, Dr. Ninja, and it says, my parents were bad spenders of money. I see it in me as well. My question is, can financial problems be a generational curse?
No, not necessarily in my view, in that particular, because we all have a choice. I think, that's what it is. Because the challenge is that we really want to sit somewhere on some fence and have somebody to blame for all our actions. And then that's what we need to depart, from. Because actually being a child of God, we're supposed to be delivered, from that. That the Lord, supposed to have granted us His grace, and then when we are saved, those things are supposed to be behind us. But what we don't want to do is to basically, sit on a fence, refusing to take responsibility for our action and just blaming our parents, blaming whatever. Can you imagine if we have to blame our parents for everything? We'll definitely not be where we need to be, you understand? So then everything's, and then it gives us some form of false comfort that I'm okay. It's just a generational case. No, sell the iPhone. I mean, it's very simple, you understand? Because you can't afford it. You understand? No, it's because my parents was a bad spender. But remember, your parents didn't have iPhones. So, I mean, they didn't have to worry about that. Now, how is that connected, to what we're doing?
That is so true.
So that's why we must basically kind of, find, what is, really the reason why we're spending. That's why I have told you at the very beginning, most of the time it comes to identity. You understand? Because we lack identity, we don't know who we are apart from the things that we have.
Yes.
That's why we ended up spending, the way that we spend. And then that's what we need to move away from.
That is so true. Ladies and gentlemen, sell that iPhone. All right? Sell it. Let it go. Get a Tamagotchi. Yeah, I'm kidding. But it's true, though. Listen, sell that iPhone if you want to get out of those debts. I'm just going to go on a quick break. Just a quick one while we gather a few questions here and have a great one. Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm having a great time right now with all this insight that I'm having and so forth. So on the break, I'm just gonna ask our guest tonight one of the special songs that you want us to play for you tonight.
Okay, wonderful. I think of late, I've really been listening to Mark's album.
Yeah.
So me and my kids have really grown to love that.
Oh.
So, and then one of the songs that we have started to memorize is actually, Keep It 100.
Keep it 100.
Okay, so, Keep It 100 is one of the songs, that I used to like. And then the second one was Walk on Water.
Walk on Water. All right.
So, if you have any of the two, then at the end of the day, you can then play that one for me. Because that's what we're talking about. We really want to keep it 100.
Yeah.
Do what we need to do.
Yeah, we're going to keep it 100.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to listen to Mark keeping it 100. Just like how we're keeping it 100 right here in the studio. All right.
If you're not born again, man, you're missing out. I'm telling you the truth. What a good life in Christ, man. You got to taste it and experience it. Just keep it 100. Homie, I'm saved now. His grace, love, and mercy, all I have now. Killing the old man. I thank God He sent His Son. He came down. Newness of life now. All things are passed away. Behold, the new is here. Jesus is calling. Jesus is calling your name now. Salvation is calling. Salvation is calling you home now. Come all who have labored and are heavy laden. Bring your bed and never be ashamed. Or the pain in the head that you feel inside now. It doesn't matter, Jesus Christ will give you rest. Your darkest past, your present mess. He knows it all. He can take care of your future. Stop hiding behind the mask. Can give it all to God. Yes, can you simply ask? Access to the throne of grace. When it's all the veil, it doesn't matter how you rock up. Can you change yourself at all? You can. Oh, no, you can't. If you could, you would change all the service, man, and the things you do. Can't change yourself at all, can't even please them all. Hey, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter where you've been. Come, miss you are. Doesn't matter what you've done, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter where you've been, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter if the world judge you, call your names at the end of the day, come, miss you are. Said I got saved, then I got blessed on my way, yeah. Look at my life, said I've been freed. It's the blood of Jesus. He came down, not to condemn, but to save the world. When I get weak, He becomes strong in me. Lord, I'm grateful. Lord, I'm thankful. So I bless you, I praise you, Lord of my life. I'm living for my King of Kings. Hey, ain't matter what you think of me. With the truth, I will come to you. Hey, ain't matter what you do to me. Every time I will live in truth. Ain't matter what they say to me. Hey, every time that I fall, He will part of me. No stress, no fear, He's part of me. Kingdom music. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Shishani show humble. Just keep it 100. Able, chungu, and pumpy. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. The truth and flames. What it is, man. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. FD music. Just keep it a clip. Just keep it a clip. Leave at me brew. Just keep it a felle. Biz on my shizzle. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Meg 44 limo blaze. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Effie and Nesta. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Jason and Trip Lee. That's what it is. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. So keep your light shining, fam. We're about to behold His glory. Wherever you are in the world as a true minister of Christ, let your ministry matter more in the world now than ever. Never lose your taste and watch down the gospel. Just keep it 100. Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again to Conversations That Build. We have in our studio Tata Ninja Ndahangwapo speaking to us about the issues of finances and how to handle money. We're having a great time in the studio. So many things are being exposed, especially that iPhone. Uh, it needs to go. It needs to go. Um, remember, remember, we are giving out a financial book in this show. At the end of the day, we're gonna ask a question or two, and we're gonna get a few calls. And if you get it right, you can win yourself a financial book, and you can collect it on Wednesday at church, Potter's House Christian Fellowship Church, Santa Clara, Kitchener Street. It'll be available. If you're out of town, just keep in touch with us. We're gonna find a way to get it to you. So without wasting time, I have one quick question before I give it over again to Tata Ndahangwapo. This is from our listener in Rehoboth. Oh, we are connecting places. One of our listeners in Rehoboth, and they say these few words. They say, can you please share some of the ways believers can do, or some of the things believers can do to increase their income? So that's the question. Can you please share with us a few things that believers can do to increase their income?
So, I mean, if you have a current work,
Yeah.
like you have a job, I mean, that's your staple income, so to speak. So it's fixed, it's coming in. So if you want now basically to increase your income, what is that you can do? So I think the ideas are already out there in terms of what is it that you need to do. You can start a business.
Yeah.
Then you can start a business. Like for me, every now and then I sell meat. See? Because I realize I managed to have one of my friend, that was able to get it cheaper somewhere, and then I was able to sell it over to something. Sell something, you understand? Because that's what needs to happen. You can either sell something. If you have a lot of time on your hand, pick up an additional job, you understand? That can get you the income. You see, the challenge is that, you see, I see people trying to do business online now.
Yeah.
You understand? One must just be very careful in terms of how you handle that. You understand?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of business that's happening, especially now where people are working from home. You understand? You can do stuff. Some of the believers in here, they're students. You see, take up lessons with kids that are struggling.
Yeah.
You can start in church, and you can ask, okay, well, whose kid is not doing so well, and then basically you can then offer to tutor, and then you can get some money out of that. So just do something. There's really a lot that one can do, depending the means that you have to start that business. But you can start small. I was shocked the other day that one of my friends have started selling ice block.
Ice block.
Yes. So they have a fridge
Yeah.
that has been in the house the whole time.
Yeah.
But because they have been thinking thousands of dollars in one go, as opposed to thinking $2.
Yeah.
You understand? Because the $2, what you need to do is just to scale it up. You see, and then now the lady is telling me, no, you see, I can sell 500.
Wow.
500 ice for $2. How much is that?
It's a lot of money.
It's 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep it very simple. It's 1,000. Understand? No, but we don't want to do that because people are thinking, okay, well, I have a degree. Yeah, but you're at home. You see, I mean, you don't have work yet.
Yeah.
Then why are you getting for work? No, but what people are going to think of me? Man, you see, that's our challenge. Understand? Because the opportunities we have them, but we are worried about what people are thinking of us. And that's what we need to change.
Thomas Edison, he said this, a quote that's basically in line with what we're talking about. He said that opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. I have my music leader church. He always says this: listen, don't rely on your salary. Yes, it comes in, but there has to be places where you get extra income that comes in for other things, that are not in the budget. or that cannot be accommodated with the salary that you get. And as you said, those extra activities like selling something, you know, I think that's basically it. To increase your salary or to increase the income that comes into the house, you know, you need to get other activities that can bring income in. You know, let me not divert what we're talking about. You know, Mr. Ndahangwapo, in the break we we're talking about something very interesting, and I really want you to share it with us online, so listeners can join in and understand. And that was the whole idea of, yes, the whole idea of how COVID-19 exposed some of us, you know, when it comes to finances, when it comes to maintaining certain things. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think what had really, happened. I mean, COVID-19 not only did it came with its devastating effect, especially on the life of those that were lost,
Yeah.
and then at least dealt like a huge blow into some of the health of the people that we know and that we are close to. Is that it also basically just exposes our status in terms of what we have that we cannot really afford.
Yeah.
See, and then that's the whole idea. It's basically for us to really always reflect, because during the COVID state, some of the things that we have established as a norm to say that it must happen in my life, and then we have made it a need.
Yeah.
We went without them, and we did just fine.
Yeah.
So, if we can really just think about that, you understand, that's what it is. See, because
That's
in
so
the
true.
end, it's not about the income that you earn.
Yeah.
It's because that's where people always think. So no, maybe Samuel, you're just speaking, because you earn this much. I said no, that's not the income. I know people that earn 100,000,
Yeah.
but they're in debt. 100,000, not per year, per month, but they're in debt. You understand? It comes down to the very basic stuff, that we have right here.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Pardon me for cutting you. There's so many questions, and I feel like we don't have enough time. So probably you just give a straight answer to some of this. One of it is from a listener here in Windhoek. It says that what is considered as an emergency when it comes to deciding when to use your savings? What can be considered as emergency? That you don't have a choice but to touch your savings.
Well, I mean, it depends really. But as for me, so I look at it from it's a life and death situation. You understand? Because we do know that we save up and then we have our pension that we don't touch, irrespective of what we have. So we must apply the same principle. So if it's a life and death situation, sometimes basically you have no choice but do it. In that respect.
All right. Another question is, what do you do to pay? What do you do to pay yourself first? Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Let me read the second one. How do you determine if the person is asking money from you, their needs are genuine or not? Ooh, that's another one.
You must get a budget. It's like, that's the thing. I mean, we're very cunning as individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, that includes you and I. So we can present something, that's not supposed to be that important, and then we make it as important. So that's why, for me, I want to start with the budget of the individual. And send, and then we can then have a discussion on that basis. But as to what is genuine and what is not genuine, somebody can present something to you, in the manner that they want you. So because they know if they can tell you this is how you're going to believe it, and so which might not necessarily be correct.
I just want to share. I just got a text from one of our listeners, and I just want to read it in. She says that one of the mistakes many people make when they find themselves in debt is that they stop paying their tithe, thinking that they can use that to pay off what they owe, which is not the case. The word of God is clear, and it states that you are cursed because you have touched the cursed thing. Let me read that again. It states that if you are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed God. So one of the very important principles when it comes to finances is giving back what belongs to God. What are your thoughts on that?
You see, and then that's the thing. I mean, why would somebody then want to coming to a place where, you see, they aren't able to tithe anymore? You see, it's because we have heaped upon, ourselves, extra expenditures. So, because remember, and then the income remained the same. So, and then remember is that once you heap up expenditures, you see, it's going to suffocate already the little income that's available.
Yeah.
And then you're going to start thinking that you don't have any more, time to tithe. But you do. But because the challenge is that in our mind, and that's where the challenge is a mind issue, where we think that, yes, we now actually have shifted in our mind where we have considered, tithe as a less important expenditure. Because that's what it is, an expenditure.
Yeah.
So we have to pay it out, right? So we have considered it as a less important. That's why we want to cut it, on that particular basis. When we should have been cutting other stuff.
Yeah.
Because nobody start thinking and say, no, I can't tithe anymore. So that means I must leave from Clean Coupe and then I must go to Katutura.
Yeah.
Because if you have done that, you continue tithing. No issue.
Yeah.
But you think, no, Katutura is not safe, even though people are living there.
Yeah.
So we basically don't consider that as an option. You understand? And then what do we do? So we said, okay, well, the only thing I can cut is this expenses. No, you're not actually cutting it. You just chose another expenditure as opposed to basically paying that which belongs to God. And then that's what it is, in the end.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like selling that iPhone. Another question, sir. It says, what are the best investments available to make sure our kids are taken care of in the future?
So in my view, it's property. So you can basically invest in property.
Yeah.
And then you can invest in shares, after you've done your analysis to kind of say whatever. You can start a business, hopefully, to give it over, to your kids, in that particular respect. And then you can just do normal savings. I mean, savings for them for particular needs, of your kids.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. Because you know that one day they're going to go to school. So what is it basically, that we need, to do, and then we can then take it from there. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
You understand? So that's why, I mean, at this particular point in time, I just want, to encourage people out there is that, what, I'm not sharing this, because I have attained it all. You understand? I myself, I'm still a student.
Yeah.
I need basically still to iron out certain things in my finances, to ensure that it's where, I want it to be. But the one thing I've realized is that, what, we have been lying to ourselves for so long.
Yeah.
You understand? And then that's why we are not changing. Understand? As opposed to identifying that this is the real root cause as to why I'm here, where I am, we're pointing fingers to anything else and not to that iPhone.
Yeah. And not to that iPhone.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to conclude, I said in the beginning of the show that we are giving out a financial book. We're going to give our guest in the studio just to ask just one or two questions. Will it be one or two or just one?
Yeah, so are people going to respond now?
Yeah, right now. You need to call in as a listener,
Okay.
So
yeah, we're going to make it very simple. We're going to ask about some of the deep things that we have shared.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that we can just check that, the listeners were listening. And not only that, I don't know, we're probably going to make it, such that it's probably maybe the first one to respond or something like that.
Yeah.
Because, if you get now people to, respond to the question, and then they all give the same answers, we only have one book available, in that respect.
So basically the first person that gets it right.
The first person that gets it right.
All right. So I'm gonna good people, to get yourself this financial book, you need to call in. So I'm gonna give out my number once again, and as slow as I can. So it's 081 2923066. If you're not in Namibia, that's plus 264-8129-33066. So I'm gonna give it over to Mr. Ndahangwapo just to ask that one question, and then we're gonna give a time frame for people to call in. Just 2 minutes. Just
Okay.
good 2 minutes. So you have the time. Just immediately after the question, your 2 minutes starts. All right.
Okay, great. So the question is, what are the three things that you have had as to why most of us, one, we're still in debt, and two, we're not getting out of debt?
All right. Can you say that again?
So what are the three things that we have shared on the program today? That number one got us to a place where we're in debt, or we are failing basically to get out. So we can put it like that.
Okay.
The three things that we have shared.
All right. You had it. That's the question. Your 2 minutes starts now.
And then please remember it's about what we have had.
Yes.
Okay, those are the three things we're talking about.
So yeah, call us in if you know the answers. Just give us a call. Plus 264-8129-33066. Please give us a call, good people. All right, we have the first caller. All right. Yes, caller, you're live.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Lincoln. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, thank you.
You are live?
Okay. My first answer is we are not living below our means.
Okay, that's number one.
Number two, you're not selling that iPhone.
Okay, And the third one? Hello? The third one?
Hello.
Yes, and the third one?
Your budget. We're not budgeting.
Okay, let's find out if you are correct. I have the number, I'll just give you a call. Let's find out if you were correct. Mr. Ndahangwapo.
Yes, no, the lady has done well. Yeah, so I think it's correct. And then once again, while we are just at the final stage here, you see, I did mention I made reference rather to an iPhone, but please, you can replace iPhone with anything else for that matter that you need to get rid of. So at least you can stay within your means.
All right.
Yes.
Congratulations, one of our callers. You have won yourself a financial book, and that is Esther Nekongo. Esther Nekongo, congratulations. You are the first caller, and you got the answers right. So you're going to get your book on Wednesday, and Wednesday night, just come to me, or basically just come to me. If I don't have the book, kill me. I'm kidding. I'm going to have the book. So come to me Wednesday during or before service or after service, and you are going to get your prize. Mr. Ndahangwapo, just 2 or 3 things that you want to say before we close.
Thank you very much. So I'll finish off once again
Yeah.
with just repeating the deep things.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then I think Esther has really done a good job in doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we have to get back to. Stay within your means. Look at the things for what they really are and for their purpose. And then, stick to your budget. And then get rid of stuff, that you cannot really afford.
Like that iPhone.
We like that iPhone, definitely. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to listen to our show. And I also want to thank our guest in the show today. Thank you so much, Mr. Ndahangwapo, for making time. And this is obviously not the last time that we're going to have him in the show. There's so many things that we can speak about, money and finances. So definitely we're going to have him back again in the studio so he could give us those deep things, eh? Those deep, deep thing, especially that iPhone. Um, I'm just joking. If you have an iPhone, God bless you. We are not attacking iPhones tonight. Um, Thank you so much once again. I had a great time. I hope this helped you. I hope it edified, it built something in your life, that you took something to help you with your finances, how to handle finances. Next week, we're going to have a great time. Our topic is going to be music and its agenda. Music and its agenda. We're going to have Mr. Christian Hayambo in the studio, and we're going to have a great time once again and talk about the topic. You're going to see it circulating on social media. Please make time again and listen to it. Remember, without you, this show wouldn't be here. So we need you to listen into, get a few numbers. If I don't do that, I'm going to get fired, good people. So let's keep doing what we're doing best. Thank you so much once again. It was a great time we had with Mr. Ndahangwapo. Great time with the listeners. And Esther, good job for winning that financial book. Other than that, we'll meet once again next week, Monday. Ciao.
Sign of music.
Man,
Light bearer.
if you're not born again, man, you're missing out. I'm telling you the truth. What a good life in Christ, man. You got to taste it and experience it. Just keep it 100. Homie, I'm saved now. His grace, love, and mercy, all I have now. Killing the old man. I thank God He sent His Son. He came down. Newness of life now. All things are passed away. Behold, the new is here. Jesus is calling. Jesus is calling your name now. Salvation is calling. Salvation is calling you home now. Come all who have labored and are heavy laden. Bring your bed and never be ashamed. Or the pain in the head that you feel inside now. It doesn't matter. Jesus Christ will give you rest. Your darkest past, your present mess. He knows it all. He can take care of your future. Stop hiding behind the mask. Can give it all to God. Yes, can you simply ask? Access to the throne of grace. When it's all the veil, it doesn't matter how you rock up. Can you change yourself at all? You can.
Oh no, you can't.
If you could, you would change other servicemen and the things you do. Can't change yourself at all, can't even please them all. Hey, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter where you've been. Come, miss you are. Doesn't matter what you've done, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter where you've been, come, miss you are. Doesn't matter if the world judge you, call your names at the end of the day, come, miss you are. Said I got saved, then I got blessed on my way, yeah. Look at my life, said I've been freed. It's the blood of Jesus. He came down, not to condemn, but to save the world. When I get weak, He becomes strong in me. Lord, I'm grateful. Lord, I'm thankful. So I bless you, I praise you, Lord of my life. I'm living for my King of Kings. Hey, ain't matter what you think of me. With the truth, I will come to you. Hey, ain't matter what you do to me. Every time I will live in truth. Ain't matter what they say to me. Hey, every time that I fall, He will fight on me. No stress, no fear, He's part of me. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Shishani show humble. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. Able, chungo and pumpy. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. The truth and flames. What it is, man. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. FD music. Just keep it a clip. Just keep it a clip. Leave at me brew. Leave at me brew. Just keep it a felle. Just keep it a felle. Bees on my shizzle. Bees on my shizzle. Just keep it 100. Just keep it 100. 44.